The Trojans go to the Bay Area and give up 49 points, maybe to honor the 49ers. And we got new t-shirts here on the Student Body Right USC podcast.
Welcome to the Put on Waivers Media Group, home of the Put on Raiders podcast and the Student Body Right podcast. This is your place for the best breakdowns and the best insight for those who fight on and bleed silver and black. Now, here are your hosts, Dwayne Douglas and Ryan Holmes.
All right, welcome back to another glorious episode of the Student Body Right USC podcast. I'm your host, Dwayne Douglas, and as always, I am podcasting off the beautiful shores of the Pacific Ocean. Beautiful day out here in Southern California. PORSBR is my Twitter handle, so you could do you can hit us up on there. Right below, we have the text line. Questions off of that. We'll answer questions next episode as we get ready for the Washington Huskies who come to Los Angeles. Top 5 team. You know, Michael Penix is a guy who could win the Heisman this year. They have a Roma Duzier is just a tremendous wide receiver, but we'll talk about that next episode. Let's just recap the Cal game real quick. And offensively for USC, let's just call like it is and say it like this. We all love Caleb Williams. He's just been a tremendous, player for the USC Trojans. But I think this year, opposed to last year, the best thing they do is just get the ball to Marshawn Lloyd. Marshawn Lloyd is really that dynamic playmaker who can just do so many things for them. And I think that's the guy who has to have maybe 28 to 30 touches in the next game against Washington. Like he's one of the single most important players who helped bring them back in this ball game when they were down by, boom, 28-14, 28-17, whatever. I mean, they needed him to kind of do that. And he just took over the game. Once he gets to that second level, he is shifty. He can do all the different things. Like he's not maybe the fastest running back, but he's fast enough to take it to the house. He's not the most powerful running back, but he can make you feel it if you tackle him the wrong way. So I would say, with the Utah game, that's the only game that he fumbled or mishandled the football in his USC career. But the best thing they do offensively is get him the ball. Like they really just do a great job of like run blocking and getting him going in these games. And I think that's what they need to do more of. Like I hate to, you don't want to make it a one-man team, but once he gets going, it kind of just, that's where like everything else Lincoln Riley wants to do is going to be wide open for him. Everything he wants to do in the passing game is going to be wide open for him because eventually at some point the linebackers have to cheat up. They have to come. They have to fire and trigger and come downhill against Marshawn Lloyd. You can't just let somebody run the ball at 8 yards a clip for you because it's just not going to be conducive to you playing good defense. That's what they need to do. And I think Penix is so good, Aduzie is so good. They have all these different weapons. They got a tight end who could play. I think it might be a game where you might, if you have the opportunity, maybe limit his possessions. I mean, they have the offensive line to do it. They have the running back to do it. And I would say, they should really consider doing things like that. Now, will they do that? Probably not. Probably not. Lincoln Riley is a fancy play designer and a guy who really wants to overcame his pneumonia, whatever. And came back to coach. I just don't know offensively. I just, it's still, Caleb is still getting sacked. He's getting hit. There is some kind of there's just been miscommunication on this team. I think Didic has been a guy who was shown that he's probably a better guard than center. Him playing center has not been great for USC this year. Just the snaps, some of the snaps have been awry. They've just some of these plays have not been, up to par, up to snuff, if you will. So we'll have to see if that kind of continues. I mean, Mason Murphy wasn't great at guard. This past game in at Berkeley. So that's an issue for them too as well. I think they miss having that depth has been being tested right now because they had an injury early on in the season to the offensive line, and then now they're kind of feeling that part of it too as well. So we'll see. But like offensively, you know, they didn't really move it like I thought they'd move it in this game. I feel like it was really a game where they got a short field a lot of the time. They got a special teams turnover, which Bill Walsh talks about that all the time. When he used to coach, the most catastrophic turnover that you could get would be the one that that when you punt the football and that punt returner fumbles. Tackett Curtis did a good job of forcing a fumble. USC recovers it, and then they end up scoring as well. But 23 of 40 isn't great percentage. The QBR wasn't great. They got to figure out, I don't know what is when they get to the goal line at the 2 yard line. I don't know what's going on with that either. Like it's just weird. It's just weird. They just have this whole big pause. They don't know what to do. I mean, it's just like it should be really simple. Like you got the ball at the 1 or 2 yard line, just hand the ball, put Jake Caleb Williams under center, have him just fall forward on a quarterback sneak, or give the ball to Austin Jones, or give the ball to Marshawn Lloyd for an easy touchdown, especially when you're playing an inferior opponent. Defensively, and I have a big side there defensively. Defensively, it's just been the same as it ever was. They give up, point after point after point, points in every quarter. So they couldn't have a shutout quarter. They made Fernando Mendoza look like Aaron Rodgers in this ball game. The defense did get turnovers. They did get fumbles. They did get probably one of the best INTs you're going to see from Eric Gentry, but it's still not enough. I mean, you just cannot keep. I mean, like, I don't know how you can really look at this team if you're a guy like Lincoln Riley and say, okay, fine, I'm gonna go ahead and give Alex Grinch a third year. Like I don't know how I don't know how you do it. I know it's a kind of a repetitive thing we keep talking about on this show, but how do you keep giving him chances? I mean, it's kind of criminal to this defense, because if they just played decent defense, they'd be in the national championship. Forecast there. With one loss, the two losses are going to be puts them in a position now where they have to kind of run the table. They run the table against these really quality opponents. They might have an opportunity to do something, but it's just if they win this conference, which is labeled as the toughest conference in football this year, maybe they could be the first 2-loss team. But I think even if they did beat Washington, I think that back to back of that's where the schedule really kind of killed them. Is I don't think anybody had that back to back in the conference where they just you play Washington, then you play Oregon. I mean, that's just a tough, almost impossible back-to-back situation, with no break in between, maybe no Arizona State to kind of buffer it a little bit. You can't, but the way they play defense, there's no buffering with this team. They'll make every game close, because what they're calling defensively is just bad, and they keep playing people who don't deserve to play. I mean, I know that Zion Branch is hurt, but it's like Bryson Shaw is just not. He's not a guy you can count on to make plays in space. A friend of mine texted me he's a Texas fan he's going through it too as well. Not defensively, but just going through the unlucky injury to Cures. And he was saying that, like, you guys are like giving up, chunks of yards, 30-yard plays, 40-yard plays to doctors and lawyers out there at Cal. So it's the truth. I mean, they really have struggled defensively mightily. I don't know how you can give somebody, how do you look these guys in the face and keep bringing this guy back? Like, you know what I mean? You can't keep bringing them back. It's just, I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you keep doing that with Alex Grinch. I mean, he's really, if you listen to the message boards and listen to some of the rumors that like the alumni is just chomping at the bit to give a whole lot of money to the next defensive coordinator, or just trying to give up just to try to do whatever they can to get a new defensive coordinator. Now, the what we could find out is more of the fact that maybe it's more issues with USC than just the defensive coordinator. But for me, let's try that first. Like we have to separate, like Lincoln Riley and Alex Grinch. It's time to separate. Like it's a divorce needs to happen, not in season. I would still like do it in the off season. I think that's the most effective way of doing it. I wouldn't do it in the season. Just let it finish out, let it play out, and maybe they need to go to Oregon and just get smashed. Giving up those 60 points to Oregon, which is probably possible with the way they play defense. Um, it's like the game doesn't even start for Alex Grinch until like the fourth quarter. So it's not good football. No matter how you swing it, it's not good football. And the first game next year is, in Las Vegas against LSU. Like you gotta come correct on the offensive side of the football. Sorry, the defensive side of the football, if you will. And I know there were some holding calls. We all have this PTSD from the Pac-12 officials. We all know that, but it's just not the way to do it. Let's see here. So the kicking game, we talked special teams on this show, and Dennis Lynch, I thought that was obviously a poor performance. They had a situation where at the end of the half, Lake McCree's knee was down with 1 second left, so they gave him 1 second. They gave him one untimed down or just a 1 second play. They kicked the field goal after halftime. So at the beginning of the third quarter was really what ended up being the kick a field goal, and then the third quarter would start, and he missed a very makeable field goal, which could have cost him this game. It's just really not. It's just horrible as far as that goes. So, they do have the kid from La Costa Canyon on the roster, Tyler Robles. I mean, I just you don't want to go back and forth with kickers, but I do think that he does kick off, so he can't bomb the leg, he can't bomb the ball down the field. If he misses one against Washington, you gotta consider some stuff like that. I mean, you really have to think about what's going to go on in the kicking game with this team, because it's not Lynch has been okay, not been pretty. I think Eddie Sablicki has not been. He's been for a guy who led the Pac-12 and punting last year. He's just been okay. I was really excited about him transferring, but it just seemed like it hasn't worked out. And they're one of seven. I think they're one of 7 or 8 teams that doesn't have a special teams coach. I don't know why. I think it's weird because you have to get the little things done in order to do big things. And I think that's where Georgia's and the Alabamas and teams like that, that's where they get it. That's where they get so good, because they just take care of the little things. And I know Georgia. I think Georgia. I'm pretty sure Georgia doesn't have a special teams coach as well, but they're just refined in other places. Like they come close to losing some of these games, but they do have good defenders and they have a head coach who knows how to get his defense put together as far as that goes. So with a Zion Branch injury, I don't know what you do in the secondary. I mean, Bryson Shaw is just not. It's just not good. So I really don't know what they do in this situation as far as on the back end, him in space covering tight ends is not going to be. It's not the answer for your football team as far as that goes. The rotations. They have these rotations that they just keep pulling out there where there's portions of the game where you should just play your best guys and be done, and that's it. And and Eric Gentry's numbers look really good on the really good when he's on the field. All his metrics look really good. So maybe that's the guy you want to keep on the football field as well. So we'll see what happens. They said USC. We will preview and answer your questions next episode. And don't forget, hey, let's DM me on Instagram, DM me on the X app on Twitter to get one of these shirts. We're gonna order for you and send one out for you. Suited by Right USC podcast. I know I got the Raider stuff behind me. I forgot to change it. Sorry, I do that sometimes. But the biggest thing is for USC is just like we talked about, Marshawn Lloyd is the guy. He's the go-to guy. So let's make sure that you take care of what he needs to do. And there you go. Late in the show, but we got it done for you. But the biggest thing is just let him ride him. Marshawn Lloyd ain't coming back next year. Marshawn Lloyd is going to the National Football League next year. So he's a junior. He ain't coming back he's not coming back for no senior year. So and you're not gonna play Darwin Barlow, you're not gonna play Quentin Joyner. So let's just ride that kid. I mean, he is the best thing you got going on offense. He's a special zero, is a special running back. And he deserves as much carries, as many receptions as you possibly can get. I do think one thing I did want to say before I go is why can't they get like 19 involved? Like I know he's a freshman, I know but I really feel like Deuce Robinson and he's one of the few guys on his team who can really just run away from people. Guys like Dorian Singer, not a burner. Taj Washington, not a burner. A lot of these guys are not burners. So why wouldn't you not just, if he's the guy who you could get, there has to be something where you can just get him the ball and get it to him in space. You're doing it with Lake McCree. So just, I know he's classified as a wide receiver, not necessarily a tight end, but I need a little bit less passes going to Lake McCree and more passes going to Deuce Robinson, because I think he is a dynamic playmaker in open space for the USC Trojans. All right. So USC, Washington, preview that this week. It's going to be a big game. I might head out to the Collie for that one. Just to see Williams and Penix on the same field, and like I said, I was joking with USCJ. I was telling them that it's going to be 74-71 somebody, the way these two teams play defense. So we'll see what happens. All right, and as always, man, you guys, ladies, take care. Fight on and get a t-shirt. These are nice. Got hoodies too.